States. And that all started with the heavy pollution at Port of Los Angeles. There's about 16,000 trucks that are transporting containers from marine terminals to a local rail yard. And you can imagine with that concentrated amount of trucks, diesel trucks, how much pollution it has. It's contributing almost 40% of the Southern California air basin quality problems come from these trucks moving containers between the marine terminals. And nobody anticipated these ports on the Pacific side to grow ever this big. The ports were planned to do about 1.5 million TEUs, and today they are in the neighborhood of 7.5 million TEUs. So you can imagine the traffic congestion and the idling and all the pollution that takes place. So in 2005, I founded Balqon Corporation mainly to address the heavy-duty truck side, which is there a way to make heavy-duty trucks short-haul application electric? And I come from a background of about 30 years in EV business, have designed and developed anywhere from industrial vehicles to golf carts to electric buses to delivery vans. So it felt natural to just keep moving to the higher side, mainly because certain technologies were available. IGBT technologies had come far enough where you could do high amp switching. At the same time, battery technology with the lithium was starting to reach a point where it could be applied to heavy duties. So we developed this drivetrain mainly first targeting a yard tractor. So if you look at the whole logistics goods movement in America, what essentially happens is a container ship shows up with about 4,000 containers on it that need to be unloaded fairly quickly. About one container every 2 minutes is being unloaded. And then you have these vehicles called yard trucks, sometimes called yard hustlers, sometimes called yard goats. And these trucks are sort of valet parking vehicles. What they essentially do is take that container as it's being taken off the ship at a very fast rate and parking them in large parking lots, at which point the customer is given a call that your container is in parking space number X, and that's where the customer comes in and actually picks up this container. Now, what has happened in Port of Los Angeles, because the rail yard was not fully integrated into a marine terminal, it is about 2.5 miles away. And there's all these residential areas in the middle.
Oh.
So what is happening is, all of a sudden these big rigs are coming and grabbing this container and moving it 2.5 miles away to a rail yard, and about 70 to 80% of the goods are going from marine terminal to rail yard, while the other 20% of the goods are going to local warehouses directly, which would be Riverside County, LA County, and sometimes as far as Arizona, where the truck would take the container straight. But 80% of the cases, the container is just going to a rail yard. So once this valet parking function is sort of served, a big rig comes in, takes it 2.5 miles away, and the process sort of repeats itself at a rail yard, where a yard tractor then is moving a container again, putting it on the train. Now, imagine this train is now heading for Chicago. So the goods goes to Chicago. Once again, you have a yard tractor there that takes this container off, parks it in a parking space, big rig comes in, takes it to a distribution center. And that's where you find yard tractors again at a distribution center, which are parking these at docks, all on the incoming side and the outgoing side. So it's a fairly large business, this whole yard tractor business is. And it's off-highway, and people are very high idling environment. All the way anywhere from 60 to 65% of the work done by yard tractors they're idling, waiting for containers, waiting for some sort of paperwork. So you can imagine the fuel consumption, the pollution being caused, and fairly unregulated market. So what you find in these yard tractors are industrial engines, not automotive engines. So you can imagine what that pollution is like. Not to mention the pollution in the driver cabin, because these yard tractors have back door is open, so the engine fumes are entering the cabin. So a driver is all day long doing 8 to 10 hour shifts with all this pollution coming at him. so which is another health risk for the driver. So we tried to solve that problem, and the first shot we took at it was 2007, where we introduced the world's first electric yard tractor, but with lead acid batteries. And that test continued on for about 6-month period. We made certain improvements in technology. At the same time, in 2009, we introduced the lithium batteries into yard tractors. And since then, our trucks can now last anywhere from 16 to 18 hours on a single charge with the current lithium batteries. But just to clarify, I mean, you're talking about 230 kilowatt hours of batteries in each truck. So we solved the problem by increasing the kilowatt hours in the tractor. At the same time, Balqon also makes fast chargers, so we tried to solve that problem through fast charging also, where until the battery energy density gets up there, the only way to solve the range issue for us is to increase the charge rate. So during lunch breaks or shift change, they can sort of spike the truck and get some of the energy back so they could last the 2-shift operation. Generally what you find in warehouses and marine terminals is 2 10-hour shift type operations. So you have 4 hours to charge the truck to replenish what you used. And that's another reason, if you're talking 230 kilowatt hours worth of batteries, let's say 200 was used, and you want to replenish that in 4 hours, you're minimum looking at 50 to 60 kilowatt hour charger, which was not easily available in the marketplace, is the reason we had to develop our own. Currently, we are in process of installing probably one of the largest chargers at Port of Los Angeles, a 160 kilowatt hour charger, which would charge these trucks in about an hour, is what we're doing. So it is big stuff. It's just what I saw here, just scaled to the 10th. But currently, we do not have any competition in the marketplace. We're the only company that is doing battery-powered yard tractors and also doing on-road work, because there's another opportunity at Port of Los Angeles when they do that 2.5-mile jog. That can easily be electric. So what we did was we introduced an on-road truck that would move the container 2.5 miles and take it back. And to our surprise, because of customs duty clearance paperwork and all the lag time in the process, the driver is only doing about 5 runs a day. So if you look at a 5-mile run, the complete run times 5, it's only 25-mile range truck you really need in order to satisfy about anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 truck. So it's a fairly easy application. It's a niche application for electric. So that's where Balqon is targeting it at its effort. Now, technology-wise, not much different than a traditional electric vehicle. We use an automatic 5-speed transmission, which is an Allison transmission. We work together with Allison to write the algorithm and the torque tables, so we have proper shifting. At the same time, it has lithium batteries in it, which we discussed, 230 kilowatt hours. Balqon makes its own inverters and power electronics and chargers. So we're fairly vertically integrated when you look at the drive system itself. We make our own inverters, power electronics, chargers, battery management systems, and batteries. We're also aligned with a battery manufacturer who is also an investor in our company. So we don't have double markups or margins. We're not an integrator. We're actually technology developers. We also export our drive systems to Europe and Asia, mainly to bus manufacturers and other yard tractor manufacturers, and also heavy-duty trucks. So we're done fairly well in exports. Like currently, we have about 84% of our revenue comes out of exports. So only 16% is U.S. Mainly because you have high diesel pricing. So when you go to Europe, you have $7 a gallon diesel. You go to Turkey, you have $10 a gallon diesel. It's a lot easier to justify on an economic basis, electric vehicle, rather than on a pollution. In U.S. side, diesel hovering around $4 a gallon has certainly helped us, where we can justify now, at least the yard tractor, we can justify based on economics. Yard tractor is about $100 to $150 a month cheaper than operating and leasing a diesel tractor. So considering the low volumes we have and still reach that economic point tells us that any significant regulatory movement would certainly help the company grow a lot faster.